This is Voices in the Game as we welcome you all back to another episode. This is going to be a fun one, my friends, with our guest on today's episode. She is a five-time Emmy Award winner. She is a senior talent producer for the Entertainment Sports and Programming Network. You all know the name as ESPN. She is Miss Katie Hennessey. Katie, thank you so much for coming on. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. You're such a talent, so this will be great.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. The pleasure is all mine. So, Katie, I would love to get the episode started by first talking about your first inspiration growing up in California. Where did you first get the inspiration into wanting a career in the sports industry? And what was the first thing you wanted to do when you decided you wanted to pursue a career in sports?
So I think my initial connection and love of sports was just wanting something to do to be closer to my dad. Not like we had a bad relationship or anything, but I always noticed my dad was watching a game, any kind of game. And so I would sit next to him and be like, how does baseball work? How does football work? Like just learning at like 7 or 8. And then I started playing myself. And a super young age, like probably 12, 13, I was like, I want to be on TV talking about sports. So I always wanted to be in front of the camera. And in high school is when I really started to actively think about that. Like if I go to a college near Los Angeles, I'm going to have those kind of opportunities. If I go to New York, I genuinely strategized it, which is kind of weird as like a 16-year-old, but I always wanted to be in the industry. And when I found out that ESPN was like this magical place of where sports happen, that kind of became the goal too. Like I want to work there. So that's kind of the background a little bit, but always just a sports fan. My dad handed down all his fandom, his Lakers, his Dodgers, and I just am a hometown team sports girl. So when the Rams moved to LA, I jumped on that bandwagon. But yeah, I mean, it was a very small thing, just trying to bond with my dad a little bit more. And then it became like, I live it, I breathe it, I love it. I watch as much as I can. I'm in no way, shape, or form a savant when it comes to all kinds of sports, but I am a huge football, baseball fan. So I love that for sure.
Yeah, and growing up in Dodgers land in Los Angeles, watching games with your dad, I couldn't help but think about you got the special treat from getting the chance to watch Vince Scully day in and day out when you watch Dodgers games. So, working in the industry now, how was that like getting that opportunity to watch Vince Scully whenever you turned into a Dodgers game with your dad?
That's actually such a good point. And from your perspective, like a really good question, because you also have one of those really great voices that kind of sticks with you. And that might seem a little bit clunky, but like it's one of those memorable voices, I guess is a better way to say it. Um, I, I just have always had his voice as the background of the Dodgers my whole life. So I think you become a little bit spoiled to it. Um, but as I got older and then I started working in the industry and I really understood his legacy and could see like the vintage photos and the old calls and like his background and read more stories about people who were around him and made me value him a lot more than like 9-year-old me just thinking it's like some voice in the background. And then he became one of the people when I would get asked because of the talent realm that I work in, like, who would you be starstruck by or like who would you want to meet? And he was definitely on my top 5. I never had the chance to meet him, unfortunately. But yeah, having that, you like glob onto it, right? It's almost like your favorite player, but everybody can love a piece of Vin Scully because his voice just kind of narrated and filled a dead space that I don't think people understand until it's gone. Joe Davis has done a fantastic job, I think, being one of the better voices nowadays. But Vin had a way of like knowing when to be quiet, but also like teaching you at the same time. I would feel smarter after listening to a game with him. And I remember his last sign-off broadcast. I probably still have the video on my phone. I was just like recording the TV the same way I did with like Kobe's last game. Like, it's just kind of, you want to be part of that magic. I don't know. That's a really good question, though. Like, I did not expect that question at all. But I think to answer it, like, first half of my life, didn't realize it, spoiled, just a guy's voice. And then once I understood the industry, like, iconic, revered, can't imagine Dodger games without him. And then who's going to replace him? And it has, you know, pretty seamlessly, I mean, not to say they're on the same level at all, but like, he kind of filled that gap in a way that would have been hard for anybody to.
Yeah, I had a chance to actually meet Joe at a sports broadcasting symposium. But that was 3 years ago, and I wish now I need to get on my list of trying to get him on so we can talk about this. But I think I do remember him talking about, well, he told the story that he always tells, how he sent Vince Scully the voicemail thinking that it was just a random number calling him. And yeah, you know, I think he did mention that, you know, about having to fill the shoes for essentially the greatest play-by-play announcer in the history of our field.
Yeah, it's a huge shoes to fill. And I remember when Vin announced that he was retiring, and there was just like speculation swirling, like, who can even do this? You know, we need to temper expectations. It's not going to be the same. And it's not. Like, you're never going to have another Vin Scully. It's one of those things like Chick Hearn, you know, like, you're never going to have, and like, hello, that fan base got both of those voices in one lifetime. It's amazing. But yeah, you just kind of have to temper those expectations a little bit. And I think people who are realistic about it were very pleasantly surprised. And people who just want to hate are going to hate anyway. So I think Joe's done a great job. Yeah. So I mean, I love him. I love when Oral Hershiser's on the call too. I always think integrating somebody who's been there, done that is very helpful in giving key insights. But Vin was just, I mean, on a whole nother level because he'd been around the block with everybody. And the other thing too was people found so much comfort and trust in talking to Vin because he would let you tell your graduate with how great he was, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely. And moving on to your time going to college, Cal State Fullerton is where you went. Yeah. So what were some of those biggest lessons that you learned when you were at Cal State Fullerton that set you up for success? And did you always have that mindset of after you graduated that you still wanted to be on camera?
Yeah, absolutely. To answer the second part first, I had those aspirations of wanting to be on camera, like very much up until I was a few years into my career at ESPN. But I remember deciding with my dad's best friend, he's passed away since, but I got so much great advice about the industry from him. His name was Dan Walters, and he sat me down because I was such I shouldn't say elite because I was good, but I wasn't like being recruited at the UCLAs of the time for softball. So he sat me down when I had tore my hamstring right in my senior year. So the school that I was going to was kind of like, never mind. And so then I was in this weird pocket of finding another school. And I applied to only California schools because I was like, I want to be near the industry. I also want to be near my family. Like, I had very much thought it through. And it was Cal State, Fullerton, San Diego State, and Cal State something else by the beach, San Marcos. And he was like, these two, you're a little bit farther away from LA. This one you can make work. And I was like, okay. And he's like, this communication program is amazing. It's not going to cost you a lot. You could figure it out. And so I remember vividly sitting at like the glass table in our living room. And he was like, I would pick this one. And this man had been the head of like talent and marketing relations for Budweiser for forever. So he used to get private suites at Staples Center and like host Magic Johnson, host Kobe Bryant, host Wayne Gretzky. Like that was his job. And his stories are on another level. But anyways, I was like, I trust this man. I'm going to go there. And it was one of the greatest choices I ever made because I was able to live at home. I was able to work. I paid my way through college, which was fantastic. And I'm truly privileged to say that because I know student loans are a huge deal. And I was close enough, still far, but close enough where I could make myself available for a lot of different internship opportunities while still being an active participant in things at school that would help me in my career choice. So I think that Fullerton was one of the best choices that I made. And it led me to a lot of different opportunities. And I kind of took on the mentality after the first year or two, like, all right, grades are important. For me in high school, they were everything. Like I wanted to be the straight A student, the best, whatever. In college, I was more so like, if I get a B, if I get a C, but like I'm out here interning and working and doing all these other things, like that's probably going to help me a little bit more than my C in geology. So I tell kids who reach out to me who are in college not to be so hard on themselves when it comes to balancing all of it. And that your internships and who you actually meet, like connect with everybody that you can, save them in your phone because you never know where they're going to pop back up eventually. So yeah, Fullerton has a special place in my heart. And I actually have a scholarship there right now for the College of Communications / anybody who's interested in the sports field because my sister passed away. So it's a legacy scholarship for her. And she was an athlete in college. So we try to combine the communications and the athletics. So it's open to anybody who's interested in the sports field, which is a little broad, but I think it helps because scholarships helped me get through college. So I like to be able to give back to a place where I had such a good experience.
Where did your sister go to college, Katie, and what sport did she play?
She went to Wheaton College, so it's a smaller school in Illinois, and she played softball. She actually had offers from like the Florida States of the world and other schools that I'm not remembering. My sister was really good, but she wanted to go to a smaller private Christian school because that's how we went to high school. So I think she liked that atmosphere. But my sister was very much like, every travel ball tournament we had every weekend, there was, you name the school, the hat, they were lined up for my sister. And I was like, I would like to play too. But my sister was just naturally gifted. She taught herself how to slap butt after she tore her ACL and she could get down the line in like 3 seconds. So my sister was phenomenal at softball. But yeah, she went to Wheaton College, got her degree in kinesiology, which they called applied health science. And yeah, so for her legacy continues on for people who are interested in the sports field. And it could be sports medicine too. It's pretty broad because she was more on the medical side and I'm more on the talky side. So
how was that like for you to have that chance to carry on your sister's legacy with your scholarship?
Yeah, it's so important to me. And I am very grateful that I'm able to do that. I think that it's really important just for people to, even if they don't read the whole scholarship, like I understand there's a lot of things to read and you need to fill out different things, but just if people can hear a little bit about who my sister was, that's important to me. And just having her name on it, it's called the Kelly Hennessey Family Foundation. My sister's name was Kelly. And, it's just important for me because I feel like we did not come from like a super rich family. So we were always looking for scholarships, or I worked in college. She also worked in the athletic department while being an athlete. So we would try to find opportunities and ways to alleviate the payment. So I think it's important if I can do that for somebody else, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's amazing, Katie. And what were the internships? I saw that did your dog come into the picture?
My internships.
Oh, I was wondering, right? I saw you look back. Did your dog come into the room?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh
I
no,
think
oh no, no worries.
that's okay. I think she stole something. I heard her crunching, so I'm like, I hope she didn't. Her new thing is she loves pins. She doesn't eat them. She'll just chew the shit out of them and then leave them. So I'm hoping she didn't take anything, but I'll find out after this.
Yeah. So, what were the internships that you did have when you were in college?
So I interned at MTV Entertainment in Santa Monica. I was in their TV PR department. So like I was helping promote Jersey Shore, or like the Jersey Shore back in the day. And America's Best Dance Crew and different shows they were launching, and a Britney Spears documentary, like all that kind of stuff. And I had no idea what I was doing. I still ask the person who hired me, like, why did you pick me? I didn't really have that much experience. And everybody else I worked with knew somebody in the program, or like knew her, like they had a connection, which is very important in our industry. But she's like, I don't know, something about your resume stood out. And I was like, well, that's cool, because once I was able to get that on my resume, then I interned at KCAL CBS in Studio City, which at the time carried the Lakers and the Dodgers. So for me, that was a dream. And that was more in the sports realm. That was like um, basically being a production assistant. And I also got to go to a game and shadow Janie Maggio, who's fantastic. And then after that, I went to NBC Universal in their TV entertainment, which was definitely different. It was not like the most proactive internship, I guess I would say. It was more so like what you would expect, like fill the printer and grab the magazines, but I still was able to learn a lot. So those were my 3 internships. And then I also did this program they had back in the day. This woman created a Nike field reporter program with Nike women. So we would have a website where we would post our stories. And she's actually a huge director now in the industry. And her sister is a supermodel. Like she's so amazing and elevated. Uh, uh, um, but that gave me an opportunity to host. So I did that in college as well. It technically wasn't an internship, but it wasn't a job, but it was more like a writing opportunity. So that was cool too.
Yeah, that is amazing. And you first joined ESPN the first time around in 2012. So, how did that opportunity come for you to join the network the first time around in 2012?
Yeah, so I very much was active in school. Outside of my scholarships, I was on the student government. I worked at the paper in the advertising side, actually, ironically. So I did like marketing for the newspaper, which is crazy because you would think I'd be on the writing side. And I had met with this woman who was like in charge of careers and career placement. And I also firmly believe like you speak what you want into existence. And sometimes that doesn't always happen. Like, does manifesting work all the time for everybody? Like, I don't think so. But in this instance, I think just telling people what you want to do, like, what's the harm in that? If they think it's stupid, they can think it's stupid. That's on them. But I had told this woman, like, I want to work at ESPN. I want to be on the sidelines. I want a microphone in my hand. And then she remembered that. She clocked it for me. And this department was doing a 10 school tour in Southern California just to see the different communication departments and see where they could help level up programs. And they actually chose Cal State Fullerton, which was surprising to me because you have like UCLA, USC, you know what I mean? Like you have these huge schools, Cal Berkeley, even UC San Diego. And they came and she was like, hey, ESPN is actually coming. Do you want to be the lead person to give them a tour, to show them our communications department, to talk to them? And one of the people that was there, he was like, what do you want to do when you graduate? And I was honest. I was like, I want to work at ESPN, but I want to be on air talent. And he's like, my department doesn't do on air talent, but if we have an opening, like you should apply. And ironically, I was graduating early because at Fullerton, they kind of scare you. They're like, the average graduation time is 6 years because it's so hard to get classes. There's so many people. And I would take summer school, like since I was a freshman. And so by the time I was going into my junior year, they're like, did you mean to graduate a year early? And I was like, no, not at all. And so just the timing lined up because they were hiring in January. I graduated in December, and I applied for a job in his department and I got it. And it wasn't like the dream job. It wasn't a sexy job. It was overnights. It was managing feeds and cutting down shows for re-airs. It was not exactly what I wanted to do, but it got me in the door. And it also, I always tell people, like, doing things that you figure out you don't like is just as valuable because you can have that experience, but still be able to be like, oh, I didn't love that. So maybe that's not what I thought it was. Like, we'll have the content associates and associate producers who come to me and they're like, hey, if I get promoted, I'm on this path. And then am I stuck in this path? What if I don't like to do it? And I'm like, if you ever don't like it, change it. Like, I did that for almost 3 years and I realized that's not the career path that I wanted to be on. I was like, hey, I loved the communication stuff I did as an intern. Maybe I should pursue being on camera again. Like, all these types of thoughts went through my head. And that's when I was just like, okay, let's see what else is out there. So I always tell people, like, even if you're down a path and you feel like, okay, I'm just up for the next promotion in the same department, like, if that's not what you want to do, there's other opportunities. And it's just as valuable to know what you don't want to do as it is to know what you do want to do.
Yeah, so when did you decide, Katie, to move forward into working fully behind the scenes when you were at ESPN the first time around?
Yeah, so like I was saying, I got the position with this guy who I had given him a tour at Cal State Fullerton, and he had said that he runs this group called Media Operations, and I had no idea what that meant. And it's shifted so many times in terms of name and what group it falls under, but it technically is under like our production branch. So it would be like overnights. I'd work 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then I slowly realized I was like that, like, I think I have more of a flair for communications and maybe the marketing side, working with people. Just like, I've always felt like I'm a dot connector in a way. I like to hear what people want to do, or like if they have an idea and how we can make it happen. And so I started exploring the first time when I was at ESPN, probably in like 2013. I started asking around people who do PR and communications, like, what do I need to do to become part of your group, basically? And their response was always like, you need more experience. And in my mind, I was like, I just came from LA. Like, I got MTV, CBS, NBC on my resume. Like, I thought I was like very qualified. My 22-year-old brain, I thought I was extremely qualified. And they were all lovely and no one like beat my dream down. They all very much were like, yeah, like you have, great starting point, but you need like a professional experience in terms of communications or marketing or PR. So ironically, a girl that I interned with at MTV, which is also why I tell people, like, always stay in touch, always save a phone number. She reached out to me. She was at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank, and she was an assistant of an up and coming marketing executive who was a VP at the time, or an SVP at the time. And she was moving on from his desk. And she was like, I think you'd be great at this. Are you looking to come back to California? And I actually was, because the combo of overnights, not doing exactly what I wanted to do, being the farthest away from home, probably while being in the same country. And I was interviewing for that. And I did it over FaceTime, which, we weren't heavy on Zoom back then. And for some reason, him and his team, they all interviewed me individually. They liked me and they offered me the job, and off I went to Burbank. So that's kind of how the whole dabbling in the marketing and communication started. And that boss most definitely was up and coming. He was phenomenal. He went from SVP to EVP while I was with him, and now he's the chief brand officer of the Walt Disney Company. So he's done an amazing job, and he's a phenomenal human being. And I learned so much from him. So my time there was really great.
Yeah, what did you do when you did go back to California to join Walt Disney Studios?
Yeah, so when I worked with him, his name's Assad. I was on his desk as an assistant, and I'd never been anybody's assistant, but somehow they hired me. I must have said the right things and had confidence in saying them, but I'm very much just figure it out. Like, obviously, you don't want to make catastrophic mistakes. You want to ask questions, but I feel like if you ask the right questions, you take notes, you pay attention, um, and you do it. And then if you have additional questions, like, that's the best way to work rather than just like, show me how to do everything. And it was very much trial by fire. It was, hey, the girl who was with me, she was already on the new job. So she was downstairs. So she trained me for like 2 days and then was like, if you need anything, I'm downstairs. But it was very different for me because I'd never been on someone's desk. I'd seen it at MTV and NBC. Like, I'd seen how assistants in the industry worked, but that was on TV and that was on a smaller scale. This was, Spielberg calling or JJ Abrams calling or Bob Iger calling, and having to have the professionalism and the wherewithal to understand and to strategize and to prioritize. So I learned a lot of different skills on that desk, and I supported his whole marketing strategy team, which at the time was a core 5 of us. So I learned on the fly very quickly how to handle multiple calendars, do expenses, traveling, all that kind of admin stuff. But I think people who are assistants are the most special people because they are the backbone and keep everything going. And then I moved on to the EVP of publicity, of global publicity, her coordinator role on her team. And then I just kind of dove in headfirst on everything publicity. And I ended up leaving the studio as a senior publicist on her team. So that was fantastic experience, and it taught me talent handling. It taught me how to work a junket, how to work a premiere, working with different media, our EPK team, pitching ideas, speaking to filmmakers, speaking to talent. So it's very much, I learned the language of working with the talent, and that's definitely helped me in what I do now.
Do you have a favorite premiere that you had the chance to work on?
Oh my God, what a good question. Um, I would say, well, I loved Cinderella just because I loved that film. But Black Panther was like nothing ever else. I don't think it was just so much energy. I was, able to be behind the line with our EPK team. So I was calling out to everybody for our camera to get B-roll. And like, I saw Chad, and then I saw like multiple other people coming where he didn't see him. So I was calling it out and people were hugging. Like, it just felt like such a celebration and such a moment in time. And I worked on that film for so long. People don't realize, like, you start pre-production, you do set visits, you do long form interviews. And then like, if the film does well, you might have an awards campaign. So that film I worked on for years, and like, people don't realize that. I still firmly believe Angela Bassett should have won an Oscar for her performance in Black Panther 2. That film was actually nominated for Motion Picture of the Year, which was a huge, huge moment for us. The other one that I think was probably my favorite was Avengers Endgame, because it had so many talent just come together for this moment in time, and like, to get that many people in one place and celebrate like the years of work of Kevin Feige and his whole team and Lou Desposito. Like, it was being just standing in that room and just like bleachers of people because the premiere was so big. We had it at a convention center and the carpet was so big because like if you have 10 principal cast, you can stagger them out. But if you have 35 principal cast, you kind of had to create a pathway, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I worked in a movie theater, Katie, when I was in high school, and also after my freshman year of college as well. So I remember working. I remember working when Black Panther came out. I remember working. I will never forget opening night for Avengers Infinity War. I worked nonstop for 2 hours straight. I remember we had our counter where we had to give tickets out and then popcorn and all that fun stuff at the same time. I worked 2 hours nonstop that night. And surprisingly, I just missed opening weekend for Endgame because it was right after my freshman year of college. So I just missed it because I was moving back home. But when I like got back, I still had to work nonstop when Endgame came out. And I remember thinking, I was like, gosh, it's just now, gosh, it's like people really do love these movies and everything. And, I just gained more of a respect with you telling me that story because I remember thinking, I was like, man, people love this stuff. And I just never understood how hard it was for these people. You think we're working hard. It's like now I got to think, okay, these are the people that are actually doing it. And, you just gain a lot more respect telling that story, knowing that all of that preparation goes into to making these worldwide extravagant films.
Yeah, and there's so many moving parts. Like I could talk to you for hours just about how many people are involved, like the events team that actually physically built out the carpet and the color and the strategy of what's on the step and repeat. And then the digital side of it, the social execution, like what's our strategy? And then people just think like most of the times they're served the content that like whatever studio or brand wants to serve. But like, I don't think people realize for most of our films, they were global phenomenons. So these people were doing world tours. So we would have schedules built out for like weeks of just you're in Korea, you're in another Asian market, you're in Europe, you're in America. Like people just think, oh, I see them on GMA or I see them on back at the day Ellen or whatever. They're going LA to New York. And that's true for some people and for some films. Like not every film is the same, every strategy is different. But my goodness, those world tours, we would have our international publicists travel them. And there's so many props to them. And it was connecting with those markets. So like I would sit with my boss on calls and we would be talking to China for part of the day. And then we would end the day speaking to the UK and like everybody wants the talent to visit their market. It's just like there's so much to it. And there's so many approvals as well, like the artwork and all of that kind of stuff. There's just so many people that go into making it a success. And my TV just unmuted. I'm like the most clunkiest person of all time. Let me walk over and turn it off.
That's great, Katie.
You're going to watch me walk. How embarrassing. I hope for anybody watching this that they realize that I'm not a psycho and that, oh, my dog turned the TV on.
Oh, okay.
I thought my husband might have left it on and then it just unmutes itself after a while. Nope, my dog sat on the remote. She is a problem today.
And okay, so I was going to ask you about, the opportunity to go back to ESPN,
Yeah.
but because of that, I would love to fast forward to what people did to get an understanding. So where were you last night and what time did you get back home last night?
Oh gosh. You pay attention. Um, I was at STC Nation this, I shouldn't even say weekend because I'm back home now, the last couple of days. So I left my house Friday at 3:30 a.m. for a flight at 6 a.m. I got to Mississippi at 3 p.m., went to the production office, went to bed by like 10 p.m. So now we're on Saturday morning, woke up at 3:45 a.m., got to the production office by like 5:30 a.m. Did the show with SEC Nation. I talent handled Hardy, who's amazing. Never met him before. He performed his song Country Country, and he did a couple appearances on the show. He picked games at the end of it. The show wraps 11:15. I'm on my way back to the airport. I land back in Connecticut after going Mississippi to Texas to Connecticut. I land around 11:30 p.m. I get home a little bit after midnight, and I finally was able to wind down around like 2 a.m. after just, triple checking my phone because I'm crazy like that. Because football doesn't stop. Like West Coast football is still happening. I was on the plane, like paying attention to text messages for radio requests that we had last night for post-game talkbacks from winning teams. There were like 8 different game requests, and then woke up to talk to you.
Oh my goodness, Katie. That is unbelievable. So that's why I wanted to ask that question there, because of the grind that it takes to work in this industry. And when did that opportunity present itself to go back to ESPN the second time around?
Yeah, so I left the studio at the end of 2019, and then I was like, I need to move back with my boyfriend at the time. He's in Connecticut. He works at ESPN. He's now my husband. And I moved back to Connecticut in 2020, not having a role secured, but I was like, I want to be back here. This is what I want to do. I have this experience. And I had been in touch with the guy who was head of our talent department at the time for a previous, like, hey, I just want to know what your group does. That's another thing I would say to people, like, don't just go to people and be like, what job can I get where you could help me? And I think it's good to build the relationship and to ask the questions, because also too, for your own benefit, like if you're asking the right questions, you might be like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. And this is not for me. But I kept in touch with him, and then they were hiring a part-time talent coordinator. And I actually got offered that in April 2020. And my mom had just been in the hospital. So I was in California since February. And nobody knew how COVID, like what it was, how it was going to play out at the time. So when I got the offer, it was like, yeah, you're going to need to move back to Bristol by June. And I was not opposed because my husband's already out here. He works at ESPN too. And so I moved back out that summer. And yeah, I've lived in Bristol ever since then. I've worked my way up on this team. It was a little bit not humbling, that's the wrong word because it's like a negative word, but I feel like it was just like a reset because I had been at a certain level at the studio, and then to come back as part-time was definitely different. But that's where I also tell people, like, I had the privilege to be able to be part-time and to say yes to that because, I was supported in other ways, which was phenomenal. But also too, like, you kind of have to take the opportunity that presents itself whilst thinking long form, because I was thinking, okay, if I do a good job here, maybe it turns into something, or maybe another opportunity on another team opens up. I just know I want to be back at ESPN. And now I have that skill set that I was told in 2012 I needed to have. And I've just grown on the team ever since. So I've been on the same team for 5 years now. And I went from part-time production coordinator, talent coordinator to talent producer to senior talent producer. So I'm pretty proud of the work that I do, but that's how I was able to come back around, staying connected to people and making sure I bug them at the right time.
And what other roles did you take on, Katie, when you did get promoted to your position now as senior talent producer, compared to just talent producer and also talent coordinator?
Yeah, so the talent coordinator role, they actually had never had it on this team in particular. So it was nice, and it was nice and also scary in the sense that I could kind of decide with the leader of the group, like, what this is going to be. And I just wanted to take on everything. I'm like, let me learn your style, the way you guys communicate with talent, who the key players are in the industry, So I would help with bookings as needed. Like if people were sick, I could be on their out of office. But a lot of it was just like self-starting and organizing. So I would create like a key dates list where I'm like, hey, you might be working on the NFL, but like this is the time frame of the Olympics, just like laying everything out for everybody to see what's coming up because I'm very much a pre-planner. Like if we could get someone on to talk about the Olympics before they're at the location and before they become the sexy story and we're ahead of it, that to me is a win. So things like that, like it was more on the admin side of things. So it was good that I had had that experience. And then being promoted to talent producer, we actually had someone leave the team within like a year of me starting. And since I had already been in the mix of like raising my hand to help with bookings, um, that role when I applied for it thankfully went to me and just grown from there. And I've continued to be on college. I had a stint where I worked on marketing and events and the daily side. So that was like a super busy stretch of the year. But it was so fun to see, how a commercial shot versus like getting someone to be guest picker on game day. So I've just continued to grow. And now I work across any college sport. Whether it's a player, a coach, an AD, or it could be like a celebrity of a team, like a McConaughey or Ken Jeong. Like I pitched Ken Jeong and I was elated when they wanted him to be the Michigan State guest picker. I was like, yes, I know this is going to be good. Like I have a gut feeling. And he's phenomenal. He actually called me directly, the first guest picker, and he's like, of course I want to do this. Like, what's the process? And him and I have actually become friends, and he did this sit down for the Lee Corso documentary. So just, I don't even know if I answered your original question, but like that's the growth on the team. I think just putting yourself out there for opportunities and like trying to learn from other people, which again, I think once you are in it, you can figure out what you like and what you don't like, or the same thing stylistically, like, oh, I love how that person did that. Maybe that's better than the way I'm doing it. So you can kind of compare and contrast with other professionals. So yeah, this team has been loaded with opportunities for me. And I love the like external partners I've made. I love the producers of different show units bringing ideas, viral stories like Pudge the Cat, that kind of a thing to the table and being like, hey, I live in the internet. Like, this is a great story. Like, I don't know if you just saw Game Day, Texas Tech this weekend. There's been a lot of content this weekend, but I saw this couple on Twitter. He was like, he's a huge Texas Tech fan. And he goes, of course, my wife would pick the weekend that Game Day is going to be here to get married. And I like commented under it and I was like, why not both? Because, you know, make it happen. You could go to game day in the morning, get married later. And so I sent that story forward to our production team and they actually moved their wedding date to Friday and they were at game day and got interviewed on game day on Saturday.
That is phenomenal, Katie.
I'm not saying it was me. I mean, other people I'm sure on the team saw the story, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is what makes this different. It's not just that Pat Mahomes is on the show. It's that someone's willing to move their wedding for game day and then come to game day. It was amazing. So those are the kind of things that I keep an eye out for. And I think show producers are very collaborative in hearing those ideas. So that's always fun for me. It's a win.
Yeah, and for a show like Game Day that has gone through a lot of changes recently, of course, with the retirement of Lee Corso and then adding Nick Saban and Pat McAfee into the mix with Pat McAfee's kicking contest. So, with a significant show like College Game Day, how does it feel like for you to be a part of that show, knowing that it's just so loved and it's just so popular with every college football fan, including myself?
Yeah, I don't think until I started working on like I always have watched Game Day, but like I don't think until I started working on it, you realize the impact that it has on people and the legacy that it does have. And the people who have worked on it for 20 something years who have made it what it is massive. People love it. It's ingrained in their Saturday. That's how they start their day. Like I remember when I was dating my husband, we would go to like A&M Arkansas games And we would wake up and turn on game day and everyone would be glued to it. But like when you actually watch the people who grind and like are driving the buses starting on Saturday night or Sunday to the next location, and like just how you said that the legacy of talent that has been on the show or is on the show now, it's, I mean, there's so much work that goes into it. People don't realize there's so many unsung heroes, like the production coordinators who are on site every week for half the week. And they're making sure like every small detail is not missed. Like, do we have the jersey for this hit? Do like this segment? Does Jess have a golf cart ride from here to here? Like, there's so many things that go into it. And it's just the highest level of professionalism of a show that I think I've ever seen, because it's like a studio show, but it's not, because there's so many moving components. And then you add the magic of like Pat's kicking contest, which has just been its own phenomenon. Like I don't think there's anything like it. And I'm not blowing smoke. Like I've worked on a lot of projects and huge movies. Like I've worked on some of the top 20 most grossing films of all time. And there's just a different magic with game day.
What do you think that different magic is, Katie?
I think it's the people. Like it really is. Like you see the folks on the desk. You see Stanford, Steve, Jen, Jess, like count down the Harrys and Christine. Like you see those people, but like there's hundreds of people, not just on site, but there's people in Bristol working on the show too. There's people in the trucks, there's people on the ground. Like everybody's just crushing it because they have their lane, they have their assignment, they have their piece of the puzzle, and they're so talented at their piece of the puzzle that when you put it together, it's like the shiniest photo you could ever see. And if one part happens to have a hiccup, which is rare because it's such a well-oiled machine, like everybody else just picks it up and it's like you never knew. Like that's kind of the magic of TV. Like when it's good TV, you just never know. And of course, people are going to pick it apart because that's just how people are. And like the internet's free, people can dump their thoughts out there. But I don't know. A lot of people have tried to replicate it, and like everybody has their own style, and I'm not hating on any other show. But I think like what Corso did in bringing that fun, plus obviously that knowledge, and then having the reputation that he did, like it made way for shows like what Shaq and Charles and that whole crew does. Like Charles is like the Lee Corso of that show.
I think it's safe to say that, I think it's safe to say that I think that's a 1-2 punch with Shaq as well, with that, with Charles.
That's a great call. I definitely would agree. But that's another like TV moment magic. Like obviously they're different subject matter, they're different style. But like if you didn't have the desk shows where like Corso kind of was the footprint, like you wouldn't. I think Ken even said that when we were interviewing him for the Corso documentary. I'm not sure if that part made it. I don't think it did, but he's like, even the Masked Singer, when I sit up there, he's like, I'm the coach Corso. Like, he's like, what do I have to do with singing? I have nothing to do with singing, but I am like an industry veteran and I'm funny. And he's like, I'd like to think I'm Coach Corso of the Masked Singer. So it's not just like in the sports world, like it extends farther out because people see how successful this blueprint is. And there's such a human connection. Like I talked about that wedding, like people are creating core memories. Like I see kids, I see older adults, I see college kids line up for the whole day before. Like people are creating such a core memory because they want to be part of something special. And that show offers it every weekend. So, I mean, to be part of that magic is kind of crazy. To say that I've worked on it is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the impact that Lee Corso has had, but I just feel like that you answered it already with the impact on really making that show what it is today. Because I'm sure everybody can say that that show wouldn't be where it is without Lee Corso.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And he just had a certain, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. He had I don't know how to describe it. And he's also like the loveliest person. He walked in on his last show with his tuxedo and I almost started crying. And I gave him cookies. I had like custom cookies made with his face on it. And he started to tear up. And I was like, you just mean so much to so many people. You have no idea. And he has such a well-rounded respect. It's like Vince Scully, like we started the conversation. Like you're going to have those once in a lifetime people. And what I've loved about this show too is like they haven't tried to replicate his magic. Like they've let everybody be who they are outside of him. But yeah, the show wouldn't be what it is without him. It's amazing. And it's incredible that he traveled so much for so long. Like that's the other thing too. That travel, like give it up to the people who travel every week because I don't go every week. I go a lot, but to carve out your whole life of probably Thursday through Saturday night, some people Wednesday, some people Monday, like you are on the road and it is these tiny college towns where it's not the easiest to get to. It's a grind, but yeah, Coach Corso was definitely the captain of the ship and I'm so glad that he got to see the impact that he had and people got to properly thank him and then Ohio State let him do his last pick on the field. I mean, it was standing on the field. I was standing next to Chris Fowler and I was like, what is like what is my life? And I leaned over to Chris and I was like, it's because of you too. And he was like, thank you so much. And I'm like, no, it's people like, I just still am dumbfounded at saying this sentence. I was standing on Ohio State's field next to Chris Fowler watching Corso do his last pick. And like everybody was crying and like the crowd was incredibly loud. And he picked his first love. He said, and like how poetic to start and end with that. I don't know. It gives me chills thinking about it. But I just looked over and I was like, that's Chris Fowler right here.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I just have goosebumps just thinking, just hearing that story, Katie.
I should send you the video because I did like
Yes.
a rap.
Oh,
I did
yes.
a rap and then I was like, oh, that's Chris in my video. And then I like waited till the moment was over and I was like, it's because of you too. Like, people don't realize like Chris is a huge part of that show and like he's still a huge voice in college football and he'll go down as one of the greats. So I was grateful to share that moment next to him.
Yes, definitely. And like we talked about, just thinking about this as well. How do you think the adaptation has gone for Coach Saban, going down as one of the greatest, well, not one of the greatest, the greatest coach in college football history, and
Right?
then
Yeah.
getting the game day, and as somebody where I just wasn't expecting him to wanting to join the media side after he graduated, just seeing his personality from the public view. I just always assumed that he was just going to just want to retire and just enjoy his life. So, how do you think Saban has adapted into being a member of the media with working on game day?
Oh, phenomenal. I wouldn't even use the word adapted. It's like he just changed gloves, like fit like a glove. Like, I don't know. I kind of compare him to the late, great Kobe Bryant. Like when Kobe played, he had a certain persona, and people were like, he seems a little rough around the edges. He might not be the best teammate. And like you hear stories like he was like full competitor. You see the Olympic video where he literally blows up Pau Gasol. And LeBron's like, shit, if he could do that to his best friend, this dude does not care about anything but winning. And I feel like that's like Saban, right? Like you got to see a different side of Kobe before he passed. Like I met Kobe at a movie premiere and all he wanted to talk about with me was girls sports, which was phenomenal. But then you saw him transition into nominated for an Oscar. He was going to have this whole different career. And I feel like that's Saban, right? Like Saban was this hard ass, certain interview answers. At least that's the perception, right? Like I don't know Saban as a coach. I just saw it from the outside.
And that was me too.
Yeah, and similarly, everybody else, unless you like know him, but then he comes here and he can have the quippiest like one-liners and he's shown a different side of himself, which I think is just such a treat for us as viewers and people on the show. But he knows what he's talking about too, which is also so cool. When you can sit there and watch him break down film, my jaw like drops all the time because I love watching sports television where I walk away and I feel like I learned something and I feel smarter. Like when I listen to Ryan Clark too, I feel like I get smarter. I've told him that. Like I love listening to you because I'll admit I'm not the biggest X's and O's person. Like I just know I like it. And like there's this feeling I have with sports. It's like the most romantic feeling you can have. And it's the great connector of the world. But like when you watch Saban talk football, it's like you're watching Picasso paint. And that might sound dramatic to some people, but it's true. You're like, oh my God, it's like a living legend. He's giving you insight into what he actually thinks. And then he'll turn around and be like hilarious, like, and not even try to be. He's just being himself. I once tried to make a joke with Saban. We were at Formula One in Austin, Texas, and like two worlds collided. Formula One and Game Day were there. So I was working on both. And Saban showed up to the track and he was looking at the cars because he also is like a car guy. And he was like looking at the cars and talking to the drivers. And he was just like leaning over and it was silent. And I leaned over and I go, how's it feel? And he's like, what? And I said, how's it feel to be a total badass? And he just like smiled at me. And I was like, oh, thank God the joke landed because I did not want the like Saban look, you know, he's just so cool. He's phenomenal.
That that's amazing, Katie. And I really, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that because, yeah, because this is something that, you know, from the outside that I just don't know about Coach Saban. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that is so cool.
I thought my joke was not gonna land, and he just gave me like the littlest, cutest smile, and I was like, "You really are." And he just laughed. I'm like, look at you. Like he walked on the track in the paddock of Formula One, where like the most famous people in the world walk, right? Like it's like the ritziest sport globally. This dude walks in the back of the paddock and it was like immediate glob, like every eye turned. Like I have chills thinking about walking with him. And it was just like you're walking with like Vince Lombardi or Bear Bryant or, you know, you name it, like a legend. And everybody knew who he was. And I was like teetering before he walked in, like, is this crowd going to know him? Because it's like a Formula One crowd. You know what I mean? Like it's a very different sport. But nope, sure as shit, everybody knew him. It was great. And he was like very humble. Like you would never know he was Nick Saban because he was like excited about the cars and like being there. It was very cool collab. It was a very fun day.
Yes, yes, most definitely, Katie. Yeah, that is absolutely phenomenal. And so, what are your main key points that you have the fine guests for all of the shows that you book? You know, to bring like guest pickers on and people to come on the show as a guest.
Yeah, so I think every show has a different strategy and different brand. Like someone that you're going to put on Sports Center is not necessarily someone that you're going to put on a digital show or radio. Some people translate and some people like depending on the newsworthiness of the guest or the topic. Yeah, absolutely. You can hit every platform and some people are really good and do well speaking on radio and then also being more concise on a Sports Center hit, right? Like that's a gift. But I think when you're strategizing for all these different shows, you obviously want someone that's going to resonate with that audience. So, like just being at SEC Nation, Hardy makes sense. Huge Mississippi State guy, huge in country music world. That's fan base listens to country music. So I think you just have to very much connect with your show unit and understand their goals and priorities while also serving the fan, while also being a good partner to whoever the talent is. And obviously, you follow the story too. Like, first and foremost, we're news, but I always remind people we're also the entertainment. So it's fun to have fun sometimes, right? Like, I loved bringing Kenny Chesney to Bristol on Monday. Sorry, I don't even know what day it is on Monday. So almost a week ago. He's a phenomenal human being. He doesn't realize he's one of the greatest singers of all time. He doesn't realize it. He just is like the nicest person. And he was giddy to come in and talk sports with us. So like someone like him, I was able to put him on any show because he's going to translate. He's got great stories to tell. He works well with every host, right? It's like I could have kept him in Bristol from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., but he doesn't have that time. But I could have, because every show would want him and he would do well on every show. And then when you talk about something like guest picker and the magnitude and the legacy that that specific part of the show has become, especially with like coach's headgear, that has a whole like brain trust, right? Like it's not just Katie Hennessey deciding. That is a huge collaborative team effort. People put forth great ideas. We're looking for people who are relevant in the moment in pop culture. And obviously, again, you want to serve the fan, you want it to make sense to the school that you're going to. And sometimes other great opportunities come up, like, you know, is Sabrina Carpenter available because of X, Y, and Z, because she's so huge in the moment in the world we live in. So things like that, ideas like I try to bring to the table as well, but you have to remember to like what's going to resonate with the audience and like kind of what's expected, but almost like you want it to be as big of a moment as you can. But there's so many other opportunities for people to join our programming. Like I get guests on Countdown to Game Day prior to game day, and it's our digital show. It does fantastic. Like we had a who's who at the championship game last year. We probably had like 8 guests on that show. So it's there's plenty of opportunity. It's just a matter of timing the person who you're trying to get on and making sure that it connects properly with the show, because you don't want to bring on somebody like who isn't necessarily relevant to like stories of that day. And you also have to kind of make sure like they understand sports too. It's not a 100% must or like we're going to quiz you on X's and O's, but like you need it to make sense to the viewer. You know, we're also always trying to serve the fan.
Yeah, just seeing the internet. I remember there was all those jokes around the internet when Timothy Chalamet came on Game Day last year.
I know, and jokes on them. He was amazing. Like that's kind of like the calculated risk, right? Like not to be like we know what we're doing, but we know what we're doing. And there's also so many other things at play and bigger picture. But he came on and he crushed it. And I cannot take credit for that at all. That was a wider other people involved in that one. But when I watched him on there, he knew what he was doing. He crushed it. He was so prepared. It went viral, I think. And like those are the unexpected ones. Like even Ken, like I don't think people expected Michigan State to be Ken Jong. Like people were probably like, this dude's from North Carolina. He's a Duke fan. But like I connected that he had like lived there. I think that's the connection. And he translated. Like sometimes you have to take the calculated risk. And probably in my experience, 95% of the time it's been great. So it's like you have so many professional elite people working here that it is a calculated risk. It's not going to please everybody all the time. Like that's just impossible. It's not going to happen. But we try our best to make it make sense and to have it be a huge moment in the show. But there's so many other huge moments in the show. Like the show is just I could talk about the show forever. It's Jimmy G and his team and Matt, they do a phenomenal job on that show.
Yeah, it's just thinking about how that paid off with Ken because of that joke with his wife.
I know.
I just pull that up. I just pull that up every now and then if I need to laugh because it still makes me laugh to this day.
When we were shooting for Corso, a little behind baseball here, when we were shooting in LA for Corso's documentary, he walked in and I'd never met him in person. We just were like text friends and he gave me the sweetest hug. And then he just started talking about his time on game day. Like if we had had cameras rolling, it would have been great. But like he pulled up the video himself. He played it. He giggled. We were all laughing. And every video we pulled up on the phone had so many views, like just because people ripping the video, putting it wherever. But that went everywhere. And then he came and did the Duke pick. And he was on the floor and courses in the background dressed as a leprechaun. And it's almost like art, but make it sports moment. Cause you have like Kirk being like giggly. You have Matt like this. And then you have Corso dancing and you have Ken Jeong like on the floor. It was just like the perfect chaos.
Yeah, indeed, Katie. And what is the day in the life for you with your position right now when you're in the office back in Bristol and you're not on the road?
Yeah, so I work mostly out of home. So my day, every day is like different, but there's a rhythm to the day. So we have programming, as you know, like 24/7. So depending on the bookings I have, I could be up really early for somebody on radio, but usually like 8, 9, I start getting into emails. I have my meetings kind of like set throughout the week. And like I have certain days that I try not to put meetings on. Like I know during football season, I'm probably going to travel on Fridays, maybe Thursday nights. So I try to like keep that space clear because I'd hate to like keep moving people like I did with you. I hate that. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, the flow of the day is like, so today's Sunday, just to like give you a peek into it. I'll get requests from shows today. I'll check in with shows on what they need, our road shows, make sure I know where they're going, start ideating lists for all those of suggestions that I have, make the requests to the different communications SIDs for this upcoming week. Requests will still come in Monday and Tuesday for different shows. But usually we're booking for like college Football Live, Sports Center, our Thursday College Football Countdown show, and then obviously our road shows, College GameDay, SEC Nation, ACC Huddle, the radio trailer tour. And then we have radio too throughout the day, all day, every day. So requests could come from the 6 to 10 a.m. show, or it could come from the 10 p to 1 a.m. show. So just kind of always available for requests, but also pitching ideas that I've seen. I kind of keep a note in my phone throughout a Saturday when I'm flying and I check in on games or like I'm in the airport, like this storyline was great, or like this player is doing X record. Like we had the Tokyo Toe, the kicker at Hawaii on Sports Center the other day, and I had him as a note in my phone that he would be a great guest because he's had like a perfect kicking season. Stories like that I try to keep my eye on besides just like the obvious like Heisman type of guys. Um, and then, yeah, Monday we get feedback, do follow ups, check in with digital shows as well to make sure they're covered off, see the storylines for each of the road shows and kind of like what they're trying to get out of their show for that week, going after the big fish for each show. That starts usually Saturday night or Sunday. Yeah, and then we just roll through the week. Most of the requests are in by Wednesday because the schools appreciate having that in advance, especially when their guys aren't going to do media on like a Friday night before a game or like a Thursday night before a Friday game. So we respect their time, of course, in making sure that we get those in early. So yeah, that's kind of my day to day. It's a lot of emails, it's a lot of texts, it's a lot of not Slack anymore, but Teams. I was going to call it AOL Messenger, but that shows you how old I am. So yeah, just constant communication, being available. College football season, you kind of just put yourself out there availability wise to always be available, especially because of all how much programming we have. And then, of course, you want the great reaction stories. And also, too, now college basketball has started. So, rolling into that, getting those guests on where it makes sense. A lot of these games, though, which is great, I think, and shows the impact of ESPN. We have an ESPN presence there, so we can just grab the headset, the mic, everything that's already there, record it into Bristol for a post game talk back if needed, get them on with SVP. So lots of great stuff in college football, really good stories. And we just hope that we capture those and do the best storytelling that we can.
What are the things that you like to do, Katie, to help, manage your time, with your position at ESPN? Because it just seems like that it's so much worse. So how is that life for you, embracing the grind and also having to take time for yourself as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I very much believe in the work-life balance, and I probably preach it more than I act on it. But I taking the pockets of time that you have, like not every single second of the day am I in a meeting. Like I'm not important like that. Like I used to schedule for people who were like that, where like you had to build in like I need a 10-minute mental whole, I need a second type of calendar. And I'm not like that by any means. But I think it's finding those pockets. Like I have the privilege of, working at home, but also going in as needed. So like if it's 1 o'clock and I realize I haven't eaten, maybe I go on a half-hour walk and then I come back and I eat. So like you find those moments of time. And also too, I don't travel every single weekend. I've probably traveled 80% of the season. But on the days that I don't travel, I, make sure my guests are buttoned up and check in with them. But then I can also take a little bit of a breather and watch the games as like a fan, which is fun for me. I love watching games. So yeah, I think it is definitely a balance. And then you also have to realize like not every season is going to be as busy. Like I usually am very busy from July till April because that encompasses football going into basketball. So during the summer, there is some good downtime. So you just have to take opportunities to balance it. But you also have to realize, and I tell this to people who reach out for advice, like you signed up for this and sports is like a nonstop entity. But you do also have to lean on teammates too, right? Like I can't do everything. It's a joint effort. And when you have great teammates, you just, you do this part, I do this part. So it's not all on one person. But yeah, work-life balance is definitely important. I'm a firm believer in mental health. After my sister passed away and everything I went through caretaking for my mom, thank God she's still alive, but that was like a whole nother thing too. I have been in therapy. I've done work on myself. I've done a lot of reading, trying to take care of myself mentally, but also knowing when to listen to my body. If my body's like, hey, it's 9 o'clock and we've been up since 6 a.m. doing work, it's probably a good time to sign off because there's not a ton happening right now. Some nights, yes, like last night, I'm going to be up late. I know it. Did I nap for a little bit on the plane? Absolutely. So yeah, just kind of finding your spot, picking those points. And I also too don't have kids, which I think is a huge factor. And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, like everybody's different. But I think if I had children in my situation, the priority would obviously shift. And I give so much kudos to people who do the work that I do or who I work with who also have kids, because that's a massive addition into the schedule. But I see so many powerful women who make it happen. And I see them at their kids' soccer game. Then I see them on a plane. Then I see them back at gymnastics. And I'm just like, damn, they're super women, like, so it is possible. It's not the life that I have, but it's just up to the person to decide what's important in that moment. I just recently went to California because my nieces, since my sister did pass away, I kind of want to always look out for them. And I went back home and celebrated Halloween with them, and I didn't go to game day that week. So like, those are the kind of balances. I was like, hey, I can't really do this one this weekend. Halloween with them is important. So it's the balances like that. I think you make time for the important stuff.
Yeah, definitely, Katie. And one final question for
Yeah.
you. Out of all the phenomenal things that you have done working in the sports industry, can you pinpoint a favorite memory?
Meeting Kobe, probably.
Oh, and what premiere did you meet Kobe at?
A Wrinkle in Time, which is crazy because I don't think the movie did box office well, but the promotion of it, like, I don't think I've seen more of a massive PR campaign. Like, we were on like 5 different magazines at a certain point. It had Reese Witherspoon, Oprah Winfrey, Mindy Kaling, Chris Pine, and then at the premiere, Kobe was on the carpet and someone else was assigned to him. And we got in the theater because we usually premiere at the Dolby or the El Cap in Hollywood Boulevard. And he was at the front of the stage, and like you literally had all those other people in that room, and he was just holding court at the front of the stage. such a lovely human. And he let everybody come up to him. He was talking to people. And then his seat was in the back, which I assume was, in case he needed to get up or wanted to leave or whatever. He had his girls with him and Vanessa. And one of the leaders in our team who was talent handling him, she came up to me. She knew I'm a huge sports fan. She goes, "You should say hi." And I was like, "No, no, no, no. Like, I never want to cross the line with talent." You know what I mean? And she goes, "You might never get the opportunity ever again." And that always rings in my head because it's so true. And I was like, I walked up and I like knelt next to him and I was like, "Hi, Mr. Bryant. Like, I'm so sorry to bother you. I don't normally do this. I work with Disney." And he put his hand out, shook my hand, and was so lovely. And I said, "I just want to thank you for what you're doing for women's sports because when I grew up, we obviously did have like the Lisa Leslies of the world, like certain female figures, Mia Hamm, things like that. But I had Kobe and I had the Dodgers. Like, those were the people in my binder, the photo, you know what I mean? Like, those were my people." So I told him, I was like, "You sparked my interest in sports and I've watched your whole career. And now what you're doing, speaking up for women's sports and advocating and showing up and doing the actual work of like being available to speak for women's sports is huge." And he goes, "Yeah, I just care about my girls." And it was all about his girls and how much he loved them and how much he wanted to see them grow and develop as players or whatever it was that they were going to be. And I thanked him for his time. And I think I started to cry. And that's like tear up. And that's like the only time I've had that reaction with somebody. So that's like a combo sports movie moment. But I think that that was like a huge deal for me. And then meeting and befriending Kenny Chesney in my journey, I mean, another one of my top five, probably like him, Vin Scully, Kobe, Taylor Swift, and I don't know who else. Probably those are the people I'm like, my jaw would be on the floor. And now Kenny Chesney, like it's crazy. He wrote for me, my favorite song by him is called Don't It. If you ever listen to it, it's kind of like sad, but it's just like that's how life is. He wrote for me Don't It, and I have it tattooed on my arm. So I have his writing on my arm, which is the coolest. And I got to show him in person in Nashville, and he was like blown away by it. And I'm like, "You're blown away. I can't believe that I'm even talking to you, let alone that you did that for me, let alone that you want to see it, let alone that you hug me and say, 'That's awesome.'" Like it's so those are the moments where I'm like, what? What? You know? So, yeah, those are probably some of my favorite moments that these opportunities and work have given to me.
Hey, Katie, this was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend. I had an absolute blast getting to know more about your story. Thank you so much for coming on, Katie.
Oh, you're phenomenal. I hope to be coworkers with you soon, and I wish you the best of luck. And I know you're grinding away with what you're doing. Keep at it because you are very good at it. And I, can't wait to see when this comes out. And I really appreciate you doing this with me.